Hey, how's it going? This is Coach Alex. Today, coming in with a video on hip lead. Hip lead is something that we do as pitchers to really get as much out of our lower half as we can. So today I'm going to show you what hip lead looks like and how we can use pretty much any strong vertical surface to really learn how to create good hip lead. So here we go. Here's hip lead. So first off, before we dive into hip lead, we want to make sure that we have some kind of strong vertical surface to work with. We want to make sure whatever we have is not going to fall over if we fall into it, or we're going to put a hole in it with our hip there. So I have this padded pole here. I recommend any kind of concrete wall, stone wall, a tree. Just make sure that we're choosing the right surface because we don't want to be having any construction projects. So what is hip lead, and why and how does it help us throw harder and be more effective with our lower half in our pitching motion? Well, hip lead, if again I'm going to use my pole here, standing about 4 inches, 5 inches away from the pole, I'm going to have my feet be about shoulder width. Just have my hands together, and what I'm going to do is take my left knee and bring it up over my right knee. As I do that, and I get my left knee past my waist, I'm going to fall off balance. I'm going to take that off balanceness and give it a direction. I'm going to send my hip into the pole. So I'm not going to try and balance out. I'm not going to get here and stop. Doing that's a fairly ineffective way to pitch, and we're wasting a lot of time and energy. So hip lead, with this drill, what we're going to do is come set here, feet are in good position, shoulder width apart. As I bring my left knee up over my right knee, I'm just going to fall into the pole and be able to hold it. Now that was a pretty aggressive fall. I fell pretty hard there, pretty far there, just to illustrate what this looks like kind of on a bigger scale. But really, for most of our pitchers, I'm going to want to be falling maybe 2 to 3 inches max. So a little bit closer to the pole now, something that you might want to try out for yourself is here. Again, good feet, good hands, we're nice and balanced. Knee comes up, and we let our hip just ride into the pole. Now I want you to notice as I stand here that my shoulder is pretty far away, that I'm keeping good weight over my back leg, and that I'm not kind of just jamming my shoulder out front. If we go into our leg lift and just kind of fly everything forward, it's going to be really hard to, again, utilize that back leg, push really hard, and then kind of have everything else all fit together. In my previous video on crossovers, a throwing drill with a ball, we talked a lot about hip lead and how it can be very effective and how we can use it in a throwing drill. It's also really important to focus on hip lead in a dry sense where we're not throwing a baseball. That way we're not worried about hitting a target or throwing hard. We're simply worried about how we're moving in the movement pattern. So I love this drill kind of maybe as a pre-warm-up thing. I come in here, I don't have to throw a bullpen, and I just want to make sure in my mind and physically I understand what hip lead is. So I'll just get, again, fairly close to the pole, feet are shoulder width apart, hands together, and I'll just maybe do 8 reps of just come up and fall. Again, my shoulder is off of the post there, my hip is in, my back leg is in a good position there, I'm ready to drive. And so after I do about the 5th one, what I may end up then doing is as I go into my leg lift and hip lead, is once I'm settled here, I'm going to push through my back leg into the post. Now it's hard to tell, but I'm working pretty hard right now. I'm pushing my hip into the pole really hard, and I'm feeling parts of my leg that normally I don't feel. Very small muscles or things that we don't use very often in everyday life. So again, doing this dry drill lets us kind of feel maybe where there might be some instability or some lack of strength, or just kind of figure out what we need to work on to be a more effective pitcher, and we're not worried about, again, throwing a ball to a target or throwing hard or throwing anything like that. In wrapping up our hip lead drill, I hope it's apparent how important this really is. You can look at any of today's top pitchers, and I can almost guarantee you that you're going to see some form of hip lead. It's very difficult to find anyone today that comes up to a balance point and a complete stop and then progresses forward. Almost every single pitcher that you watch is going to have some kind of forward progression as that leg lift occurs. Again, that's how we tap into that back leg. As we're coming forward there, you see my back knee drop inside my back foot. If you want to see this in action with a ball being thrown, I recommend checking out my crossovers video. It's a pretty good video in my opinion, and it really illustrates kind of how we can take this drill and then utilize it in a ball scenario, in a throwing scenario. So this has been Coach Alex. Any comments or questions, leave them down below. Like and subscribe would be awesome, and stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you guys next time.